Munatira Vanachari Yamunatira Vanachari Jai Radha Madhava Kunjabi Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jaya Mudirayet. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is our very means of conquest, we first offer respectful obeisances to the personality of Godhead, Lord Narayan, unto Narayan Rishi, the supermost human being, Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and Srila Vyasadeva, the author. By regular attendance in classes on the Bhagavad, by rendering service to the pure devotee, all that is troublesome within the heart becomes destroyed to practically nil, and thus loving service unto the glorious Lord, who is praised with transcendental hymns, becomes established as an irrevocable fact. Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 4, Vidura approaches Maitreya, text number 11. Please repeat. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Vedaham Anta Manasipsitam Te Vedaham Anta Manasipsitam Te Dadami Yat Tad Druravapam Anyai Dadami Yat Tad Duravapam Anyai Satre Pura Vishwa Srijam Vasuna Satre Pura Vishwa Srijam Vasuna Mat Siddhi Kamena Vaso Tvajeshta Matsiddhi Kamena Vaso Tvajestata Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Vedaham Antamanipsipsitam te Dadami Yattad Durapapam Anyai Satre Pura Vishwa Shri Jamvasunam Matsiddhi Kamena Vaso Tvajesta Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Vedaham Antamanasipsitam te Dadami Yattad Duravapamanyai Satre Pura Vishwa Shijam Vasunam Siddhi Kamena Vaso Tvajesta Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Vedaham Antamanasipsitam te Dadami Yattad Duravapamanyai Satre Pura Vishwa Shijam Vasunam Siddhi Kamena Vaso Tvajesta
Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Vedaham Antamanasipsitam te
Vedahamantamanasipsitam te
Dadami Yattad
Duravapamanyai
Satre Pura Vishwasrijam Vasunam
Satre Pura Vishwa Shijam Vasunam
Matsiddhi Kamena Vaso Tvajeshta
Matsiddhi Kamena Vaso Tvajeshta Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Vedaham Antamanasipsitam te Dadami Yattad Duravapamanyai Satre Pura Vishwa Shijam Vasunam Matsiddhi Kamena Vaso Tvajesta
Shri Bhagavan Uvacha
Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Vedaham Antamanasipsitam te Dadami Yattad Duravapamanyai Satre Pura Vishwa Shijam Vasunam Matsiddhi Kamena Vaso Tvajesta. Anyone else? Okay, word for word. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha. Personality of Godhead said.
The personality of Godhead said.
Veda. No. Aham. I. Anta. Within. Manasi. The mind. Ipsitam. What you desire. Te. Your. Dadami. I give you. Yat,
Yat,
which is
which is
Tat,
Tat,
that
that
Durvapam,
Durvapam,
very difficult to achieve.
very difficult to achieve.
Anyai,
Anyai,
by others.
by others.
Satre,
Satre,
in the sacrifice.
in the sacrifice.
Pura,
Pura,
in the days of yore.
in the days of yore.
Vishwa,
Vishwa
Srijam,
Srijam
of those who expanded this creation.
Of those who expanded this creation.
Vasunam,
Vasunam,
of the Vasus.
of the Vasus.
Matsiri,
Matsi,
Kamena,
Kamena,
with a desire to achieve my association.
with a desire to achieve my association.
Vaso,
Vaso,
O Vasu,
O Vasu,
Twaya,
Maya,
by you.
by you.
Istaha,
Ishta,
ultimate goal of life.
ultimate goal of life.
Translation, please repeat. O Vasu,
O Vasu,
I know from within your mind
I know from within your mind
what you desired in the days of yore,
what you desired in the days of yore.
when the Vasus and other demigods
When the Vasus and other demigods
responsible for expanding the universal affairs
responsible for expanding the universal affairs
performed sacrifices.
performed sacrifices.
You particularly
You particularly
desired to achieve my association.
desire to achieve my association.
This is very difficult to obtain for others,
This is very difficult to obtain for others,
but I award it unto you.
but I award it unto you.
O Vasu, I know from within your mind what you desired in the days of yore, when the Vasus and other demigods responsible for expanding the universal affairs performed sacrifices. You particularly desire to achieve my association. This is very difficult to obtain for others, but I award it unto you. Srila Prabhupada's Divine Purport. Uddhava is one of the eternal associates of the Lord, and a plenary portion of Uddhava was one of the 8 Vasus in the days of yore. The 8 Vasus and the demigods in the upper planetary system, who are responsible for the management of the universal affairs, performed a sacrifice in the days of yore, desiring to fulfill their respective ultimate goals of life. At that time, an expansion of Uddhava, acting as one of the Vasus, desired to become an associate of the Lord. The Lord knew this because he is present in the heart of every living entity, his Paramatma, the superconsciousness. In everyone's heart, there is the representation of the superconsciousness, who gives memory to the partial consciousness of every living entity. The living entity, its partial consciousness, forgets incidences of his past life. But the superconsciousness reminds him how to act in terms of his past cultivation of knowledge. Bhagavad Gita confirms this fact in various ways. Yayatamam prapajante tams tataiva bhajamiyaham. Chapter 4, verse 11. Svavashaham redi sani vishto matasmritya ganamano ganam apohanam cha. 15:15. Everyone is at liberty to desire as he likes, but the desire is fulfilled by the Supreme Lord. Everyone is independent to think or desire, but the fulfillment of one's desire depends on the Supreme Will. This law is expressed as man proposes and God disposes. In the days of yore, when the demigods and Vasus performed sacrifice, Uddhava is one of the Vasus, desired to enter into the association of the Lord, which is very difficult for those busy an empiric philosophical speculation, or fruitive work, fruitive activities. Such persons have practically no information of the facts about becoming an associate of the Lord. Only the pure devotee can know, by the mercy of the Lord, that the personal association of the Lord is the highest perfection of life. The Lord assured Uddhava that he would fulfill his desire. It appears that when the Lord informed him by his indication to Uddhava, the great sage Maitreya finally became aware of the importance of entering into the association of the Lord. It appears that when the Lord informed him by his indication to Uddhava, the great sage Maitreya finally became aware of the importance of entering into the association of the Lord. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purport to the 3rd canto, 4th chapter, verse number 11. Vidura approaches Maitreya. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Om Ganati Miranda Shyagananjana Shilakaya Katshun Militam Yena Tasman Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dilati Swaprantikam Kam Groti Vachalam Pungam Lingaya Tegadim Yakri Patamaham Bande Shri Gurun Dinataranam Paramananda Madhavam Shri Chaitanya Iswaram. So even the great Devas are desiring to become the Lord's associate. The Vasus are no small town people, but they're the demigods who are controlling the elements, and they're the work under the direct leadership of Indra or Vishnu. You have Varuna, the god of water, Vayu, the god of air, Agni, the god of fire, you have the god of earth, you have the god of the constellations, you have the god of the sky. So they're, extremely important people in the universe. And apparently here, one of them was a partial expansion of Uddhava, according to Srila Prabhupada, because Uddhava is the eternal associate of the Lord in the spiritual world. And so he must have had an incarnation there as a Vasu, took up a role in the universe. Sometimes even Krishna may take up the role of Brahma. Sometimes even as Swayambhuva Manu, who is the father of mankind. So this Vasu desired Krishna's association when they were engaged in sacrifice. We engage in various sacrifices, and there are various thoughts and desires in our heart. And, Krishna is listening, and, he can fulfill those, especially at the end of our life. If we desire something material, then, Krishna is, obliged to fulfill that. He certainly will help out the pure devotee, but it's not very possible that the pure devotee is going to be desiring something material. But a mixed devotee, ordinary devotee, we may desire some position in the heavenly planets, or we may desire to do some preaching work on the earth. So many things we may desire. And, Krishna is there, and, he'll work all this out with ourselves so that, we don't have any hankering in our heart. When we go back to Godhead, there's no hankering. You know, we're not hankering for anything. We just, anything material, we're just hankering for our particular rasa or association with Krishna. That's the supermost achievement, to again link up or join with Krishna through bhakti yoga. Yoga meaning to link, and bhakti meaning through devotion. We have devotion for Krishna and we want to link with him. No, we don't want to link with Indra's campaign, or even we may want to link with Lord Vishnu to serve him, but Lord Vishnu resides in the Vaikuntha lokas also. That's the spiritual realm, you know, to serve. In Vaikuntha, one has a spiritual body and has no material hankerings or lamentations. But in the material world, we always have some material hankering, and consequently we also have some lamentation. So, you know, we can serve Lord Vishnu in the material world also, like these Vasus. But just like everyone, even Lord Brahma, everyone makes mistakes in the material world. You could even say Lord Vishnu, in one sense, suffers the consequences of his mistake, so-called mistake. And even Krishna suffers the consequences of his actions. For example, Krishna was cursed by Gandhari because she held him responsible for the demise of the whole Kuru dynasty. You know, I mean, after all, he's the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He could have done some yoga maya, some mystical magic, and somehow have changed Dhritarashtra and Duryodhana's hearts and brought about some peace compromise. But, you know, Krishna gives free will, but, you know, people in their time of grief, they don't want to hear all this philosophy. They just lash out many times because they're so full of lamentation, grief, pain. And in that pain, you know, they strike out against the person they may think is somewhat responsible. You know, they're not in a proper state of mind. So Krishna, you know, he suffered those consequences. And consequently, you know, his whole family became cursed to die in a fratricidal war, just as the Kauravas did. Lord Vishnu, you know, he arranged the food to Tulsi Maharani. And as a consequence, had to become stone for being so stone-hearted. So, he used everyone. Now, never Vasu. You know, the Vasus all got together and they stole the Kamadhenu cow, one Rishi. And the Rishi cursed them to go down to the material world. You know, they didn't want to do that. Who wants to take up a job as a human being? You know, we suffer so many pains. You know, you got bodies made of bones, and, you know, the bones get arthritis, or they get osteoporosis or something, you know. The blood could get leukemia. You know, so many things, and, you know, human beings suffer from, you know, from the time you're born to the time you die. And, you know, death isn't pleasing, and neither is birth. So, who wants to take up that type of life? You know, especially somebody who's been relishing in the celestial realm. So they prayed to this Rishi, you know, to mitigate the curse, and he allowed them to come back very quickly. And I was mentioning, I think, in the last class, so therefore the goddess Ganga, who begot children with the emperor of the earth planet, Shantanu, and she cast her first 7 children into the Ganga right after birth, so that the Vasus, they took birth as her child, as her baby, and they immediately went back to their celestial realm, which was their heart-fulfilled desire. We don't want to have to suffer in this world. But the 8th one, who I guess was responsible for the plot, and I think that was Dara, if I'm not mistaken, he's in charge of the land. You know, he had to stay on the earth a very long time as a punishment. And he became the great Bhishma, and became, because of his outstanding accomplishment of following his vows throughout life, you know, and especially 2 very difficult vows. One, to remain celibate, although a big Kshatriya prince, he remained celibate his whole life. And another one was that he would protect the Kuruva throne, no matter who sat upon it. And as a consequence, he had to protect the throne of Dhritarashtra and Duryodhana, and even fight against pure devotees like Yudhisthira and Arjuna and Krishna himself. So, but he became a great Mahajan. The whole Mahabharata, the biggest section of the Mahabharata, is his instructions on Dharma given to his grandson Yudhisthira, teaching people how to live in this world. So these Vasus, they also get in trouble in this world, what to speak of us. I mean, we just go through this Bhagavatam, even the Pandavas, this is Vidura approaching Maitreya. So Vidura had to leave his position. He had to leave his home simply because his nephew was being so atrocious that he couldn't take it no more. So he just blew it all off. Y'all go die on the battlefield. And he went on pilgrimage. So many of them, even Duryodhana had to suffer seeing all of his 99 brothers killed. And then he who could have achieved victory, defeating his arch enemy Bhima, was slain unfairly. So everyone suffers in this material world. And so much. Even our Srila Prabhupada, didn't he suffer so much? Gored by a bull, penniless, even, ripped dhoties, having to deal, his wife didn't appreciate his preaching work, even sold his manuscript of the Bhagavad Gita to be able to, have some tea biscuits. So many ways he suffered. He had to suffer pain in his ear. He had to suffer diabetes and heart disease. All these things in the material realm. Why do we want to not take the opportunity when we have the opportunity to get a wonderful body like Vishnu or Krishna, a spiritual body? That is the intelligent thing to do. We have this opportunity to get a spiritual body. We just have to study about Krishna and remember Krishna rather than studying about so much Dharma in this material world. Once you get wrapped up in it, it just takes your mind away. Years and years and years of working for someone else or working, for your own profit so you can support yourself and others. Where's the time to remember Krishna? So through karma yoga, we try to do it for Krishna. But, by really strictly following the rules and regulations, then we come to become more devoted to Krishna. Arjuna followed the Dharma of life, as a big Kshatriya. And we see Vidura also. But then, Vidura gave it up to hear and chant about Krishna and just completely absorbed his mind. Even the Pandavas at the end of life, they walked out, they left the kingdom behind and just fixed their mind on the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and rapt attention, Bhakti Yoga, and went back home, back to Godhead. So, the choice is up to us. What do we want to get out of life? And Srila Prabhupada, he wants us to get the best. So he understands that souls in human bodies, many times they're filled with so many desires. They may want something. So Srila Prabhupada says, at least go upward. Don't go down. Don't be a fool. Why be a fool? Become a tiger just because you want to eat so much meat and blood. Why? You want to go back to that type of kingdom. They have fleas, they have all sorts, and they have so many problems. You think humans have problems, tigers and lions have problems too in this world. a lion may be chasing a zebra, its prey, its food, and by the will of providence, by fate, by its karma, the zebra may kick it in the jaw while the lion or the tiger is getting ready to leap up on it and break its jaw. Then you have to go up and die because you can't eat. Broken jaw, there's no doctors to fix the tiger's jaw, You gotta go up and just die somewhere. So, no place is a nice life here, but, sometimes devotees, want something. There was in the 9th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, there's one king. I don't know, I think it's the 9th. It may not be the 9th canto. But one of the sons of Priyavrata Maharaj, he desired some position in the celestial worlds, and that's what he attained at the end of life. There was another Kshatriya king, I can't remember what canto it's in, and he made the fatal mistake, as so many Kshatriyas do, and while hunting, his arrow hit a cow and killed it. And so he was cursed. And so what he thought, though, he was very intelligent. He thought, I'm not going to suffer the consequence of this curse. All this, this living in this material world, I suffered this curse and had to start all over. Like, what is the name of that famous Muni? The one who was like the enemy of the sister, Vishvamitra. Vishvamitra is a Kshatriya. He worked so hard to become a Brahma Rishi. So hard he had to work just to attain this post of Brahma Rishi. It's like a person wanting to attain president, and he 3 times fails. Sometimes they don't get it, like at the beginning of the 1900s. What was that man's name? Jennings Bryan or something like that. He was famous as being the attorney in the famous, I believe they call it the Scopes trials or something like that, when evolution was put on trial in the state of Tennessee, and the Christian right wing brought in Jennings Bryan to be the attorney for them. And he was a great orator, and he tried to be president 3 times, but he failed 3 times. So his desire, people become so attached to country. I mean, he probably had to come back. I mean, he could have been, somebody in modern times, when maybe he finally attained that position or something, because he so much desired it. So anyway, what this king did was he thought, there's no way I'm going to go through this, keep going through this. I'm just going to give it all up and practice pure bhakti yoga and go back home to Godhead. And that's what he did. He just gave up all this material stuff, practiced bhakti yoga, and went back to Godhead. Overcame the curse. Not that he overcame the curse by cursing whoever cursed him. That only multiplies it all. Now you become responsible for cursing a rishi. 2 wrongs don't make a right. Maybe you made a wrong, you shot the cow, you got your punishment, but now you're going to do another wrong. You're going to curse the person who, played some part in you suffering your punishment. 2 wrongs don't make a right. So people with vengeful minds that feel somebody has done something to them, and then they plot how to get them back, they only suffer more. They never really become satisfied. Their minds are constantly full of vengeance and agitation and plotting how to get the person who they figured harmed them. But this Kshatriya king wasn't like that. He said, let me just go back home to Godhead. And he practiced bhakti yoga and he went back home to Godhead. Like that. Got a Vaikuntha body. I mean, after all, we're not these bodies. The proof is right before our eyes, because the body's going to grow old and die and we're going somewhere else. So we were never the body. It was all like a dream. It may be a dream that had consequences of, some other dream, or if we took the opportunity in the human life to hear and chant about Krishna, then the dream may lead to what's eternal, to what's actually real. Our spiritual body. We may get our spiritual body back. No more bags of bones and blood and organs and whatever, all the things that make up this body. So many cells. Instead, we get a spiritual body. In the Upanishad, it says, Krishna's body has no veins. It has no blood. It's a spiritual body. We can't even comprehend, such a great body. But we can have that type of body. Instead of having some mediocre body, we can have a spiritual body. We just have to hear and chant about Krishna. And gradually, become purified. And it's not easy when one exercises it throughout our life. Maybe, we do it to the best of our ability, and yayaptamams prapajante. Based upon our surrender, Krishna rewards us accordingly. But the devotee is very intelligent, so the devotee is only going to get something auspicious. But the devotee that exercises it with great determination and desire, loyam, greed for attaining Krishna's association, for again serving Krishna, and his devotees directly, then, they can actually attain a spiritual body in this very lifetime. So it's after 10 after 8, we got this whole program that's supposed to start at 9 o'clock, so we better skip on out, because, who's ever going to attend it's going to have to come back at 9 o'clock. And then we also have the 12 o'clock program. So, there'll be, a feast served, just like on Sundays after that. And we'll see how the weather is for considering where we'll eat. And we'll see, if it's too cold and there's not all that many people, then we can eat in here. But if it's just real crowded, people may have to take their plate and go find a warm place, go leave the garden office or the Katrina room. But we don't want to pack everybody up during this virus time. Okay, Srila Prabhupada, Ki Jai.